So a couple of caveats to start with to understand what you are and are not getting in this tutorial series. This is not a tutorial intended for absolute beginners to Unity 3D. I'm going to assume that you have a basic idea of the layout, that you know how to create simple 3D shapes and manipulate those, size them, scale them, put them in different positions, and that you also know how to apply simple textures, which I've done here in creating this little fortress guarded by my 4 flag towers. But the towers themselves I have kept intentionally very simple so that we can focus on the physics involved, which is really the point of this here. I think if you were probably going to do this for any serious gaming, you would import some sort of modeled, either an entire anti-aircraft tower arrangement or the individual components, rather than building them from primitive shapes the way I've done here. Unity is not a modeling program. There are other programs that are much, much better for that. It is a gaming engine that is intended really to move around things that you've modeled or gotten from someone else who's modeled them elsewhere. So to begin with, let's just look at the basic components of one of these flak towers. I've actually hidden the other 3 in this scene because they are just duplicates of this one, and so understanding the components and physics of this one, once you've got that, then you can duplicate it as many times as you feel the need for towers. Now, I should add that I have coded this so that it basically functions as a mid-20th century anti-aircraft cannon. I've got it shooting shells that follow a trajectory like that with a proximity fuse that I set that I'll show you. That's why you're getting the airburst so close to the aircraft that we saw. But except for some of the details, the basic mechanics are the same that you would use if you wanted a flak tower out in space. You know, you had a series of them on a starship or a evil empire ship that your hero was attacking in their X-Wing fighter. You would simply have somewhat more futuristic looking guns, and they would fire light pulses or whatever it is they're supposed to be firing in Star Wars. But the basic mechanics of aiming and firing would be the same. So I'm showing you this, in this format, but it could be used really anywhere where you've got anything like anti-aircraft defenses that is part of the game for you to try to destroy before they kill you. In fact, and let me just make this final point about the versatility of the mechanics that I'm showing you here. In fact, everything that we're going to be looking at here in terms of the basic components and the code that operates them doesn't even need to be confined to a static anti-aircraft defense or anti-X-wing defense or whatever of the kind that I have been discussing so far. You could take this same code and apply it to, for example, some sort of an anti-aircraft installation that was moving. The turret could instead be mounted on a moving aircraft itself. You wouldn't need to change anything about this code as long as it was able to acquire a target, let's say another aircraft that was attacking it that this was trying to shoot down, or out in space. This could be mounted on a spacecraft and be trying to ward off or destroy an attacking spacecraft. Both the gun and the targets can be moving, and it would make no difference to this code. It is simply calculating the relationship between them. And in fact, it doesn't even have to be used in an anti-aircraft context. I could have the same basic code, which as you've seen is essentially a turret. I could use this as the turret and gun for a tank, for example, that was moving, and it could be firing at a land target, another tank or whatever. And the only thing that you would need to change is in the bullet nav script, rather than making it an airburst, you would have it wanting to detonate or cause some kind of damage on impact. So this is very general physics or mechanics for any kind of an automated defensive weapon, where I happen to be focusing on a classic Second World War anti-aircraft specific scenario. So the gun structure is what I've called this entire assembly here. By the way, if you're wondering what that is, that's the ultimate target that all these guns are protecting in this case. I just had to use something, brought in a little house. It's basically between the walls and the fire of these guns. It's pretty well protected until you've taken out the guns, and then if you manage to hit it with a bullet or a missile, it explodes in a very satisfying mushroom cloud.